Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. All right, today we're going to talk about gaslighting. This has been a topic that keeps coming up in my DMs and also in our private Facebook group. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to dig into gaslighting because although it's not directly affiliated with Gumball Love or the addiction to attention, it can be used in that way. And so I wanted to talk to you about it in general and then talk to you about how different people will use this as the quote unquote gumball. So I hope you've enjoyed the past series of all the different flavors. So there are 8 flavors of Gumball Love, and I hope you have had a chance to listen to all of those episodes as I go through the different flavors of attention. Because as we discuss all of these different aspects, what this really is how people use what they want or how they manipulate you into doing things to get what they want. And that's essentially what is happening with gaslighting. So if you're not familiar with the term gaslighting, I recommend that along with narcissism and sociopaths and psychopaths and all these different phrases that you just do a little bit of research, especially if you are dealing with what you think is a gumball guy. The gumball guy is not necessarily a narcissist, but he can be. And so I'm not going to get into a lot of that, but I just want you to start maybe just taking a look at some of those different definitions. If you've coached with me and we are talking about a guy that is taking things a little bit too far. And so I would consider gaslighting when it becomes and we'll get into this definition, but I believe that this is, it is psychological manipulation. And when people are really using things to manipulate you, then I feel like it takes it farther than just attention addiction. Attention addiction, Gumball Love, is just I want you to soothe me or stimulate me with something, whether it's sex or drama, or I want you to compete with another woman. And a lot of times it can stay at a very, I don't want to say surface level, but when it goes beyond what am I saying if I say normal human interaction? But a lot of times people are attention seeking, but they may not be master manipulators. They may not be a full-blown narcissist. According to psychologists, there's only 1% of the population that would be classified as an official narcissist, and the psychopaths or sociopaths. But there is a spectrum, right? So I think not to get confused with all of it, we just need to be aware of what these behaviors look like. Because when we are aware, we can experience someone treating us a certain way, and we may not be fully aware as it's happening. But then when we are removed from the situation, we can reflect and then say, oh, I think that was gaslighting there. I think this person was trying to make me question my own perception of reality. And that is exactly what gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation in which a person or group, I'm reading this from the definition, covertly sows seeds of doubt in a targeted individual or group, making them question their own memory, perception, or judgment. So if you've ever been in an abusive relationship, you may have had a psychologist work you through these different things that have happened to you over the period of the relationship. And I always want to remind you that when you become aware, it becomes obvious. And then when it's obvious, you start to look at yourself and think, What the heck was my problem? Why didn't I see it? You didn't see it because you weren't looking for it. And you weren't looking for it because we're not expecting someone who is supposed to care about us, to love us, to do these things. And so it's not natural for you to jump to that conclusion. And so when you are falling in love with someone, you are not aware that the behaviors are abusive or controlling or giving you some type of contradiction, then you are blindly trusting them. And this might sound counterintuitive, but I want you to keep that part of yourself that blindly trusts. Because when you finally meet the right person for you that loves you for who you are and will protect you versus put you in harm's way, you still want that person, that lovely, beautiful heart of yours, to be able to fall completely and surrender to that person because they will be safe for you. And you may have thought that the other person was safe and they turned out not to be. And that's okay. I want you to just release that guilt and that shame, because when it becomes obvious and then we have that hindsight is 2020, we have that perfect vision and we can see, oh man, what was I thinking? Well, you were thinking with a whole different set of information. And so why wouldn't you have fallen in love? You were attracted, you were having fun, you didn't see what you didn't see. It's that simple. So I want you to keep in mind, gaslighting is a manipulation, and you're not aware of it until you know the signs. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk through these things. Either you listening to this podcast, or you going into the private Facebook group and talking with a group of girls, or maybe you meet up with someone in the private group that you relate to each other's story, and then you guys can connect offline. That's what I want you to do. I want you to be able to, oh, she went through this too. And then you can gain strength from each other and you build, and then eventually you won't be attracted to this type of person anymore. Because I was thinking about, I'm not attracted to these types of people at all anymore, but it took me time to be aware and slowly shed those people from my life, prune. Some people I had to cut really abruptly, and some people it was a slow fade out. Some people were closer to me where I tried to have conversations. And ultimately what I've realized, if I can give you any shortcuts, is that anyone who's manipulating you has something else going on in their lives. There's the one thing that I used to think, oh, I must be the cause of this. There must be something I'm doing that's wrong. I must be, they must not trust me, or they think I'm manipulating them. They don't trust my motives. And so maybe I need to work a little bit harder to prove who I am. And in all those efforts, it never paid off, because quality people know quality people. And I started to see who I didn't have to prove myself to. And then I just started to gravitate toward those people. And it's difficult, because sometimes the abusive people are the ones you enjoy hanging out with. It's what you're used to. It's what you know. And so it becomes a habit, and you start to tolerate that toxic behavior because it doesn't seem toxic to you because you have a steady diet. Like my boyfriend and I, we just had fast food. It was like, oh, we're going here or there. And it was just like, yeah, it's kind of like, I was like, was it okay? It's okay. But, we are used to eating healthier. And so that, quick fast food, it's okay, but that's not our normal diet. And so the same goes for people. When you are interacting with healthy people and healthy interactions, and then you all of a sudden throw somebody in that's extremely unhealthy and toxic, you notice it right away. But if you're eating fast food a few times a week, suddenly that food starts to taste better and better to you. You get used to it. And then healthy food starts to seem, it's just kind of, it's not, you want that sugar, you want the carbs, you want the French fries, the onion rings, all the stuff, right? We start to crave what we're used to. And so this is a process. And the more pressure you put on yourself, if you try to think this is going to happen quickly, oh my God, I've got somebody gaslighting me. What is wrong? Try to be more calm about it. Try to look at them from I want to say holistic view, but that's not the word I'm looking for. It's like, try to look at them as a whole person instead of just that interaction you're having. If you see, I feel like they're manipulating me, but why? What else is going on in their lives? And when you start looking at other people and what they're going through, and you realize, this isn't all about me. They're doing this because of some other reason. So let's get into it a little bit deeper. All right, so let me think of an example of someone who gaslights you. So if, let's say, you are dating someone and they are acting like you are in a serious relationship, you are exclusive, and that is the impression you've gotten. They haven't been talking to anyone else, you've had a great time, and then, I don't know, something happens and they appear a little bit distant. They're on their phone, or then you see they might be talking to someone else. And then they say to you, and you say, are you talking to somebody else? And they say, yeah, why? I thought we were exclusive. We never said we were exclusive. And then your eyes kind of shift around like, well, but you've been acting like, I haven't been acting like we're exclusive. Where did you get that idea? And you want to say, well, I got that idea from all this time we've had together. Well, I mean, I know we've been spending time together, but that doesn't mean that we're, boyfriend, girlfriend. And then you stand there like, oh, okay. So was I reading this wrong? And that's how it can begin right there. And then he can say something like, yeah, I mean, I like you. I think you're great. I want to still hang out, but I never said we were exclusive. So then you start to question yourself. And that's when we start to read the text messages and we go back into the conversations. And when we're in a weakened state, this can be extremely effective. Because let's just say that you just got out of a breakup from a previous relationship. A lot of times people will jump right in to a new relationship without healing prior, or healing after that relationship, prior to the next one. And so if you go into the next relationship without healing, of course there's going to be an infatuation period. So you will miss a lot of the red flags because you're not healed. You're in the weakened state. Your self-esteem isn't as high. And so you're easily fooled. You're going to go, oh wow, maybe I did assume too much. Am I assuming? Versus the stronger version of you would say, oh, okay, well, yes, I did have the impression that we were exclusive because we've been spending all this time together. And after a couple of weeks or 3 weeks of us being exclusive, I did make that assumption. So if that's not what you are feeling today, like you were in the past 3 weeks, then that does change things for me. Do you see the difference between, oh, well, I guess I thought we were, exclusive, but if you're saying it's also when we're weak, we're easily manipulated. And so then we also have the lack of worth. And what I mean by lack of worth is, yes, you should be able to say, based on how you're acting or you've been acting, I did assume that we were in an exclusive relationship because you deserve to be in an exclusive relationship and you deserve to be someone's significant other. And so if they start acting that way, that is normal for you. And if they start acting some other way, that is not normal and that is not okay in your world. And so you move on from people that treat you anything less than what you are worth. But that is also a journey to get to that point. But what I'm trying to explain is that when someone is gaslighting, they're only able to do it if you are having doubts about yourself or you're not feeling strong. So think about, okay, what situation was I being gaslit? I'm going to switch gears and go into a family function. For many years, I would go into family functions where it was my extended family. We would have, Christmas events, or many of you just probably came off of tons of holiday events. How did you walk into the event? Did you feel bad about your job situation? Do you feel like you're overweight? Do you have critical family members? Do you feel like you should be married or the person you're with isn't what your family approves? And are you immediately feeling judged? Because if you walk into a situation, you're already weak, right? And you're vulnerable to that criticism. And so if someone wants to gaslight you, they can give you or they can manipulate you into perceiving your reality differently. So here are some things, just if you look up the Wikipedia definition, They will use denial, misdirection, contradiction, misinformation. They destabilize you. So you walk in and they say something like, wow, somebody's been hitting the donuts. So that's an immediate, that's really not gaslighting, but that can destabilize you. Some kind of a comment, it's like a dig, right? So they're going to get you to feel unstable. And then they will move to creating or making you question something else. But it takes that low self-esteem first. It takes that weakened state. And I shouldn't say it takes the weakened state, but this is how it becomes easier for people to do this to you. And then they might follow up that weight comment with something like, oh, I thought you were on that magical diet that you were doing with that incredible food plan. And it was supposed to be the greatest thing ever. And maybe in reality, you said you were going to try something. You remember what you said. And they're acting like you made it into this huge deal and it was going to be the most amazing thing ever. I've caught people doing this. And then I will say, what do you mean by that? Oh, you were saying that this was the most incredible thing and you were going to lose all this weight and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, I didn't really say that. I didn't say that at all. Yeah, you did, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, literally, you're witnessing someone trying to create a false reality. So they're making you question yourself. And I remember falling victim to situations like this where I would be like, I said that? Yeah, you don't remember? And so then you're questioning yourself, because I would be so gullible to believe people in these situations, and I can even be guilty of being gullible to this day because I actually don't have the greatest memory in a lot of situations, so I can be fooled, right? So let's say you are fooled and then they're making fun of you for something that really didn't happen, or they're twisting it just enough to where now you're defending something that you didn't even do, or you didn't even say, or they've blown it out of proportion. So there you are in front of a group of people, and some jerkwad is now making you look bad because he created a reality that isn't even real. So how do you handle those situations? What is the right thing to say? So the first thing I want you to remember, in these situations, you don't owe an explanation. A lot of times, saying less is so much more. So when someone is trying to destabilize you, make you question your reality, number one, know your worth, stand your ground. But also, sometimes the more you stand your ground with these people, the deeper you can get into the manipulation. And so you want to avoid confrontation, because the confrontation is what's making you defensive, and that defensiveness is what's feeding into the manipulation. And so if it's someone you don't know that well, it's like that guy at your family event, maybe it's a brother-in-law, maybe it's an uncle, maybe it's a uncle's wife or an aunt's husband, whatever. And it's somebody that you're like, oh, I just don't even want to deal with this right now. I don't even know what you're saying, or why are you even bringing this up? You can say things like, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't believe I said that. So if you remember it that way, that might be, I'm sorry that you remember it that way, but that's actually not what happened. So anyway, how are things going with blah, blah, blah? If you can just change the subject, don't allow things to land. You can say, yeah, I don't remember that at all. So, or no, that's actually not the case. I'm sorry you remember it that way. And that's it. I've noticed over the years, less energy toward these people that are trying to attempt these things. Because why are they doing it? A lot of times people will gaslight you because they don't know how to deal with the situation. I was researching this before, and I was researching people that do gaslight others. So if they're the gaslighter and they are the ones that are doing this to other people, why are they doing it? That was an interesting perspective of looking at if you are the abuser, because this is abusive behavior. And so if you're experiencing this is something that is a manipulation, it is an abuse, and over time, it will wear you down. So even if we can become aware that this is happening, that's okay. But we can't, just because we're aware and we kind of know how to deal with these people, does not mean that we can, oh yeah, I know that's gaslighting. I can be around that person. It doesn't affect me. No. it will affect you. It's just like being around a physical abuser. I want you to think of it, emotional abuse and physical abuse. I don't want to say they're the same thing, but they have very similar impact. One can cause a bruise or a break or blood, but the other is causing emotional bruising and damage and wounds that can last years or a lifetime. And so being around this, yes, you might have tools where you can deflect, you can change the subject, you can control your reaction, but still taking that in is so unhealthy. It's just like saying, oh, well, I know how to eat right and exercise. But if you eat something unhealthy, your body still has to deal with it. You still become sluggish. You still have, your organs have to process it. You're still going through it. And so it still becomes unhealthy. So getting back to when the content is written toward the abuser themselves, if someone actually realizes that they are a gaslighter and they go and try to get help, you know what they say to them? They say, okay, if someone brings something up and you don't want to deal with it, your reaction is to deflect, is to deny, and it's to make them feel like it's their fault. That way you don't have to deal with your own reality. So if somebody is trying to gaslight you or change the perception of your reality, or in actuality, they're trying to change the perception of reality, period. If they can get you to believe that what's happening isn't happening, then it deflects from what they don't want you to see. So it's a way to hide what's actually going on. So if someone says to you, for example, many family members, many people went through this where you have a family member that drinks too much. They get really drunk, they get really obnoxious, and you try to have the conversation with them and they say, oh, I don't really get that. Oh, I wasn't drunk. So then you have the conversation of what's drunk versus tipsy. Or, okay, so were you over the legal limit? Were you slurring your words? Have you ever had this conversation with somebody? You're like, look, it's embarrassing. I don't want to babysit you. I don't want to go through this. And they say, oh, it wasn't that bad. It's not that big of a deal. You're overreacting. So then it makes it, I don't have to deal with my drinking. I don't have to deal with my slurring of my speech. I don't have to acknowledge that I may have a problem, that I'm causing a problem. And so then I'm going to make it your fault that you are the one overreacting. And so I don't have to deal with my own reality. So if you think about gaslighting in just that way, where it is designed to deflect and distract away from themselves, that's usually, from my perception, almost every single time. So it's a form of denial. And reading this definition, instances can range from denial by an abuser that previous abusive incidents occurred to belittling their victim's emotions and feelings. So when you're saying, I'm feeling this, and they say, you are not feeling that way, it's because they don't want to acknowledge that they've made you feel that way. And sometimes people just cannot deal. They don't have the awareness that they are actually doing this themselves. And so when someone brings it to their attention, they can't even handle the mirror. Because when you're trying to stop a gaslighter, you're putting a mirror in front of them and you're saying, you are doing XYZ. And they are saying, no, I'm doing ABC. And it is the most frustrating because you feel like an insane person. You're like, how do you not see that you're this drunk? How do you not see that you're doing this? This is extremely easy to see. It's very clear. But when they are blatant and they refuse to even look at it, then you do naturally start to go back to yourself and think, well, am I overreacting? Is it not that big of a deal? When in reality, if a person comes to you, I always switch it around to me whenever I think, okay, am I the one that's in the wrong? And then I think of someone saying something to me like, you know what, Melissa, you're just getting too drunk and you're causing a huge scene. I would be like, oh my God, I am? What happened? I'm so sorry. And I would really evaluate, well, what did I drink? How much did I drink? What was going on? What did I even say? I would immediately have this sense of ownership, right? What did I say? What was I doing? Who did I talk to? Do I need to apologize to other people? This is what we do when we're in touch with ourselves and we are willing to take responsibility. But a gaslighter isn't willing to take responsibility. So if they cheat, it's not cheating. Oh, I wasn't cheating because I wasn't in an exclusive relationship with you. Oh, I'm not wrong because I'm going to create a reality where it makes it okay because I don't want to take responsibility. I want to hide and I want to create a different reality. So the reality that I create makes my behavior okay. Does that make sense? But over time, it can happen little by little. So it's not like these things happen in grandiose events. They can be little subtle things. Hey, did you put the remote control in the bathroom? No, I didn't put it in there. And you know they did. But then you think, no, well, I guess maybe they didn't remember. And like, no, I did not put that in there. You're the one dragging the remote around. And you're thinking, yeah, I didn't drag the remote around. But then you think, well, I guess it's not completely impossible. I could have done it. And so you let it go. And then, hey, you left the light on in the bathroom. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. And so it's little things like that start to add up, and they can pick at you. Well, you're always dragging the remote around. You're always leaving the light on when they're the ones that are doing it. But I believe, and I've seen people who will gaslight on the regular because this becomes a habit of deflecting from their own behavior because they don't want to acknowledge that they can do anything wrong. Because if they can do something wrong, then they have to deal with, oh my gosh, I've hurt other people, and they have to take responsibility. The reason in Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the first steps in the 12-step program is to acknowledge that they have a problem and then apologize to all the people that it impacted. Because it's important that we take ownership and that we also acknowledge that our behavior affects other people. That's how you know when people really are in recovery and they're going to make it, is when they can take that ownership and they also know how their actions are impacting other people. But if there's no ownership and they cannot see how their actions are impacting other people, it's very unlikely that this person is going to make it through recovery because they can't even acknowledge those simple things. So I hope this has been helpful. I know that, gaslighting can go into so many different areas where someone is literally making you think that what is actually happening isn't happening. And it can get so bad. And this may have happened to you where you had to get out of the relationship and then almost reassimilate back into the world and realize that what you were being told, what you were being manipulated to think wasn't actually true. And there is that can take a long time to really realize, wow, this actually wasn't true. This actually wasn't the reality. What he was saying about me is completely false. And even realizing the manipulation, there is a healing process through that. It doesn't just happen overnight. I remind you of this over and over and over again, because every time I'm coaching one of my girls, and if you want to come in and coach with me we do Zoom, or you can just do it via audio, there seems to be this idea that therapy, that recovery, healing is a fast process, and it's not. If you were injured in a car accident and they said you need physical therapy, you would not think you were going to do one session of physical therapy and be healed. You know that your body went through a trauma, and so it's going to take months or sometimes years for people to rehabilitate. So I want you to understand that we come to romantic relationships, we come to that table with a lot of baggage from childhood, through our own experiences, through grade school, junior high, high school, college, our first jobs. We have many different interactions with different people. And a lot of times it's before we're even thinking about gaslighting, narcissism, sociopaths. We're just going in and we don't know what's happening. We have no awareness. And so a lot of damage is done. And then we get a little bit of education. We start hearing things, through social media. So much of this psychology, self-help, a lot of this is much more prevalent. We're talking about it more, but it still doesn't change the process of healing through it. So if somebody is manipulating you, sowing those seeds of doubt covertly, keep in mind, this is covert. This is not obvious until you know the signs. And even when you know the signs, when it's happening with someone you love, someone you really wanted to make your life with, that you thought was the one, and they end up not being the one, it's devastating. And so you don't want to think these things about this person. You don't want to believe that they can be this way. It's horrible. It's a terrifying realization. And so it's the realization of that alone. So you can become aware. And this is when I'm coaching you, and let's say you're in this relationship right now. If this is happening to you right now, you can't just get out today. You're going to have to observe this for a while, a period of time where you watch it happen and you see the pattern repeat. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, are they really being this manipulative and deceptive? Are they really denying their own reality? And you will have to work through it if you have a therapist, or you and I can work through it together, where we start to see, okay, this is what the reality actually is, and this is what he's claiming the reality actually is. And once you start to separate them and you watch the person start to covertly manipulate you and actually state things that are not true or not even happening as if they are, and you see it in action and you have the awareness simultaneously, that's when you start to gain strength. And I will tell you when we're coaching one-on-one together, when you observe it without trying to address it, when you observe it without trying to react too much, you just watch them do it, you gain a lot of strength because, one, you're not giving up the energy it takes to fight them. And also in that observation, you see that it's not you, that you're not creating this. In my current relationship, it's so wonderful. And I've thought many times, wow, it is easy. I wasn't difficult to be in a relationship with because I just wanted this. I just wanted to hang out and have fun and go do things and be with family and enjoy life together. I always thought, this is so simple. But I would get into these relationships where the psychological manipulation would happen and it would complicate things and it would make me doubt myself. And then I would wonder and I would analyze the wrong things. I was questioning myself. And gaslighting makes you question yourself, which then erodes at your self-esteem. So it does its job, right? If I make you question yourself over and over and over again, you're going to get weaker and weaker, and the gaslighting works better and better. And over time, you have no strength left. So I shouldn't say no strength, because you have less strength. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you have some strength in there, because you're already seeking out help. You're already looking for answers. And you may feel really weak right now, but that girl, that bloom might just be tight, but all the petals are there. Everything that makes you wonderful, valuable, your worth and value right now is going to be the same when you find the love of your life. Who you are right now, that worth and value, I look at it as a tight rosebud. And all we need to do is allow you to bloom. And that blooming process happens when you give yourself the nutrients, the sunlight, and allow your root system to take hold. And that happens by investing in yourself, realizing who you are, because your petals aren't changing. If I take you through a whole process of rejuvenating and rebuilding, I'm not going to change anything about you. I'm just going to make you see how beautiful you already are, how worthy you already are. That's what you just may not know right now. I didn't know it. And as I have fallen in love with the right person for me, I realize, wow, I have so much to give because he appreciates and accepts what I have to give. And I appreciate and accept what he has to give. And it's just this constant reciprocal thing going on. And so I think, wow, this was here all the time. I didn't change who I was. I just realized who I was. And I was able to stand in that worth and finally know who I am and what I have to offer. So someone that is gaslighting you is simply deflecting from their own crap and putting it on you. So they make you question your own memory, your own perception, or your judgment because they're trying to distract you because they don't want you to see who they are because they feel bad about themselves. So it's low self-esteem attacking someone else to give them a low self-esteem so they can gain control and continue to hide the things that they don't want that person to see. Does that make sense? That is my perception of gaslighting. We can get caught up in the games that they play, but as soon as I see that the gaslighter themselves is the one with the lowest self-esteem, that can give you and I power to then not exert our energy, to observe, to give less response, to walk away faster, to understand that although I like this person, I think they have potential, ultimately they're not a good person for me to be in a relationship with. And so I'm going to engage less. If there's a gaslighter or a manipulator, kind of a jerk at a party, at a family function, I used to try hard with those people, and I don't engage in conversation. I don't invest there. It's like if I told you, I want you to put all your money into the team that's coming in last in football or basketball, you would look at me like, why? I don't want to invest my money there. I know that they don't have a good team and everybody's injured and their coach sucks. Like, why would I put money there? You wouldn't, right? Because you're just throwing your money away. So when you look at any dynamic socially, and you know who these people are, and you know, yep, that's the guy that kind of puts you down. He makes fun of you. He makes fun of your car. He says those stupid comments. Now I just feel sorry for that guy. Oh man, it's too bad you have to make fun of my car because you wish you had one like it. And so you have to say something kind of crappy to make yourself feel better. And so when you just don't engage, or sometimes I'll even agree, yep, it's a crappy car, gotta hate those brand new vehicles that fall short of expectations. And then they kind of go, don't let it land. Sometimes I just give it to them. Just depends on the situation. But then I'm going to disengage from the conversation. Sometimes we're forced to have some type of response, but I'm not going to stay there and try to win them over. I used to try to win them over. I hate that I used to do that. See, I beat myself up a little bit. Oh my God, I wasted so much time. But you know what? I didn't know any better. But now I do. And so I'm able to enjoy myself, even if somebody says some crappy comment, because I'm like, he must have a really low self-esteem. He must be having something going on in his life that, he's not feeling good about himself, not making enough money. He's not happy in his relationship, or she, or whatever it is. We can be cordial, but we don't accommodate. We don't go out of our way for those people. We just give what we have to in that moment and get out of it, because the more we invest, the more we engage, the more we give it time, that's when it starts to erode at your self-esteem. So you have to really look at, okay, and I want you to do this before you go to an event. If you know who's going to be there, I want you to start thinking, okay, I know that this person might try to get me into a conversation, but what is my way out? What is my subject change? What do I know they like to talk about? What is a good segue into a different conversation? I want you to start arming yourself with topics so that if something awkward comes up, you can bring something else up that will then get you out of that conversation. And the tried and true is, excuse me for a second, I have to use the restroom. You use the restroom and you hook up with a different group of people and you don't go back to that person. There's always a way out. Oh, hold on a second. I have to take this call. Would you excuse me for just a second? That's it. It's all it takes. You don't have to have anything elaborate. You can just get yourself out of those situations. So I hope this is helpful. I don't want you to be a victim of this, because remember, the gaslighter is really someone else's victim. And this is their coping mechanism. It's pitiful. It's manipulative. It's wrong. It's very evil in a lot of ways. But if you look at them as the person that needs the most help, it will empower you to realize this is not you. This has nothing to do with you. It's not personal. However, it still hurts, even though you have all the knowledge and you've read all the research, you've read all the books, you've listened to all the podcasts. It's still not healthy. So you want to limit your interaction, but also keep reminding yourself, okay, this has nothing to do with me. I don't know what their problem is, but I'm going to gracefully bow out, change the subject, go to the bathroom, take that call, whatever. I'm getting out of here because I'm worth more than this type of interaction. And over time, you just keep making those decisions over and over and over again. And eventually you will feel yourself lift out. And then you'll think back and go, oh, I haven't really had a negative or unhealthy conversation for a long time. And then when something happens, it'll be like, oh, wow, haven't had that happen in a while. So trust me, you're not going to deal with this forever. You will get better and better, and it will get easier and easier. And then those gaslighters, those manipulators, those rude people, they're going to feel afraid to talk to you. Now you won't be such an easy target, and they're not going to get what they're looking for. So they're going to move on from you. And that's eventually the path away from dealing with these types of people. But they're everywhere. They're in your family, they're at your work, they're at your church even, they're, online dating. So this is why we just stay in the conversation, team up with people, get people that are also curious about this stuff and that you have other friends to talk to, connect with people in the private Facebook group, and just keep learning and stay aware, because awareness is everything. All right, I'm going to stop it here. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me, melissa@gumballlove.com. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballlove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it, a 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough, you are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.